I'm going to talk a little bit about content and how to think about content from a global perspective, but really understand the nuances and the importance of local markets. So look, let me start by taking you back to the year 2007, because I think the year 2007 is a significant turning point in the lives of those of us who are in the entertainment industry and for consumers around the globe. So not only was my youngest son born in 2007, but it is the year that Netflix made a decision for a select small group of titles to start streaming across the United States. Now, up until then, you had to go to the Netflix website, you had to pick out titles, they would package them up, they would ship them, you'd get a DVD to your house, and the magic took place. But now that titles were streaming, that magic became instantaneously available, and it, for obvious reasons, changed everything. And in a very short period of time, 3 years, Netflix began that global footprint expansion by starting in Canada. And 190 markets later, Netflix has certainly set the bar for global expansion for many streaming services. But it only really makes sense if you're going to have a global streaming service, you're probably going to want global content. And I think what's happened is, even if you're not global, you are looking for content to bring into your territory, because content and consumers' desire for content internationally is growing. And if you're not there to keep up with it, you really are at a disadvantage. So what you're looking at on the map here is a map of top titles for Netflix, and the color codes are the titles and how that title has spread. But you know, here in the United States, the Canadian powerhouse of Schitt's Creek became #1 very quickly. The British program Peaky Blinders became #1 in France, Italy, Brazil, and Argentina. But interestingly enough, not in the United Kingdom. So they did not embrace their own, program. And in the UK, the United States Wrestling, Women's Wrestling Glow is what actually took off over Peaky Blinders. So these titles and the ability to really understand, it's not always just common sense. There are layers of information. And we were just listening to Michael, or I was listening before I got cut off, to Michael talk about the importance of data and how data is everywhere today. And that is absolutely the important ingredient. In fact, Netflix did one other really, really important thing when they became global, which is in 2006, they launched that infamous $1 million contest where they opened it up and said, anyone who can improve our algorithm by 10% can win $1 million. And they realized early on that it's not just about getting a global footprint, it's about having the data to understand what consumers want, to understand the nuances of the local markets, and ultimately be able to pull all of it together to be able to predict. Content is really expensive, and content is harder and harder. Good content is harder and harder to find for a lot of platforms today. So if you're going to invest in it, you need to have high probabilities of confidence that it's going to be a success. So while Netflix started it, there's all sorts of platforms today competing for that very same piece of content. And as I said, even if you're not truly global, like Netflix and Prime and Apple Plus, but you just want to stay competitive here, you are probably looking for those super titles that are just starting to pop. And what I hear most often when I go in and visit with these platforms is, I don't know always where to find the titles. And when I do find them, I feel like I'm the second one to find them, that one of the big guys has already found them. So the secret here is find the titles, evaluate the title, and license the title as quickly as you possibly can. And that is all about data. So let me show you the data. We are in partnership with a great company called BB. BB is out of Latin America, And they have a directory, if you will, of all of these streaming platforms across 155 countries. And this slide just really gives you an understanding of the magnitude of what we're talking about, right? There's 155 countries. Inside, there are 1,750 platforms. So that's a lot of streaming platforms. Those platforms are carrying 446,000 movie titles, 184,000 television titles, and this year alone, just in 2021, I'm really going backward, in 2021, 17,000 brand new titles have been released. So there are thousands and thousands of opportunities to make a choice, and the job to make the right choice is all about using the right kind of data. So I'm going to give you a quick case study. This is a top-line case study, but you'll get the feel and you'll get a good understanding of how we are really working with our clients to think about things globally, but really understand things on a local level. So this is a case study that we are looking at for HBO Max, and we are making the assumption that HBO Max is looking to bring a title into the United States that has international flair, because they're looking to keep up with the big guys who are also offering a lot of international titles. So this case study, let me just tell you what we did here. So first of all, we have an app called TV Time, and it is a global app. We went into our MENA region, which is the Middle East and Northern Africa region. And we went in and looked at people who are tracking titles. And we went in with the purpose of knowing we are only looking for titles that are local in that territory and haven't yet been licensed outside of it. So to do so, we started with a list of what are all the titles in that area that people are tracking. And then we eliminated any other SVOD original. So if it's an original that's coming out of that territory, we assumed that's not something that's going to be licensed elsewhere. So we wanted just local, untapped content. And then we went into a couple more layers. We then added on some KPIs, and I'm going to take you through what those KPIs look like. We looked at affinity to other HBO titles, we looked at engagement, and we looked at the demographic profile of the viewers. But first, we started with the #1 program on the list, which is Rashash. And that is a program in the Middle Eastern, Northern Africa region that is originating out of Saudi Arabia. And it looks to be a really interesting and powerful complement for HBO Max. So it was the #1 program that was followed and met our criteria. So then we went down and took a look at the rest of these KPIs. But let me tell you about the title first. I said earlier, we wanted fresh, and this is fresh. So while this is an 8-part drama miniseries, only, I think 3 of them have only dropped so far. This just came out, so July 9th on MBC, which is out of Saudi Arabia, came out, and it's inspired by real life events, and it's taking place in the 1980s, and it's all about crime and how the Saudi police go about bringing these criminals to justice. It is all in Arabic with a Saudi dialect, okay? So that kind of sets the tone. This is a very, it's all Saudi cast, and it's all very, very local oriented. So since it was the #1 in that area, we said, let's just look and see how it is with other HBO titles, the affinity. Does it have a strong affinity? And affinity means if I'm a viewer of Rashash, did I also watch other HBO titles? And that's the affinity. And what we found when we pulled the top 25 affinity titles is that 7 actually overlapped. There were 7 HBO properties that were high in the top 25 for also having the same viewers. They shared the same viewers. And by comparison, the next closest was Apple, and they had 4. And then everything went down pretty considerably after that. So HBO Max really stands out as having viewers that the titles are there across the middle of the page, Sopranos viewers of Rashash are 13.3% more likely to watch The Sopranos. Down on the other side, if you look at Barry, viewers of Rashash are 9.5 times more likely to watch Barry, and etc. So immediately you can start to see, okay, this is a local title out of Saudi Arabia. It's rated #1 out there, ranked #1 for our people watching or intending to watch, and it has a super high affinity to HBO titles. All great signs. But there's more. The next layer we looked at was engagement. I mentioned that our data comes from our TV Time app. That app is all about engagement. And since I'm only talking for 15 minutes, I'm not going to spend time on it. But if there are questions about the app or anyone wants information, happy to do so offline. But the kind of tagline behind our data is we're the why behind the watch. And that why is all about engagement. So then what we did is we went in to those followers and we said, okay, we know it has high engagement. Let's just look and see exactly what it is. And this particular snapshot says that of the people in the MENA area who have told us that they had an intention to watch Rashash, 74.31% of them converted to actually watching the shows that became available. If you compare that to the average title in that genre in that region, only 38.51% convert. So it's high conversion rate. It's indexing 93% higher than the average title of that genre in that region. So people are liking it and it's converting. They're engaging, has an engagement score of 53.72, 169% higher. The average engagement score in that territory for that genre is 19.9. And of course, it has a very high rating. So this was a way for us to say, okay, high affinity overlap, high conversion. People are telling us they want to watch it, they love it, they engage in it, and it has a high audience rating. Let's look at the demographic. Well, lo and behold, it is a very complementary demographic. So on the left-hand side, you can see the demographic profile, which is just slightly younger than the general average demographic profile of HBO, but generally speaking, a really nice complement to HBO. So you can see that it is a really interesting way. Now it's just a top line way. It's a very, very quick sample, but it's a really powerful sample because what we're able to then do is take that and incorporate it into our clients and into other systems that then really make finding data, finding titles and then licensing titles completely different than having arrows in the dark. So this is just a quick snapshot of that TV Time app. We have, as I think I mentioned, the 18 million users, and that's the different things I'm happy to share with you. This is just a quick little overview of what kinds of engagement measures we have. I talked about affinity. What I didn't talk about was emotions. We can know if it made you happy, sad, etc. So there's all different ways. There's social memeing. There's many, many layers to this that you can get into. What we also have done is we've then created a demand score. So we want this to be as simple as possible. We do all that background work for you, and we put it out in a demand score that then just allows you to look at whether it has a high score, high probability of success, or low probability in whatever country you're in, on whatever platform you're in whatever window. And then it goes over into a marketplace where you can not only plan for your titles, explore your titles, find your titles, but then execute and actually do the licensing deal in the titles.